in the good stretch, got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you wanna talk run, it's the place to be. Yeah, it's the drop, D-R-O-P.
Hey, this is Taylor with Believe in the Run, and I'm here today with one of my new friends, I'm going to say. We spent some time together out on the Leadville course, and she absolutely crushed it. But when I first caught up to her, she wasn't crushing it. It was a fairly early on in the race, not feeling that great, and I know we'll get to talking about all this. But Lea, welcome to the drop.
Yeah, thank you. Stoked to get to chat with you again.
Yeah. So at Leadville, we shared the stage first. You're a La Sportiva athlete and recently turned on the professional team. What were you doing before running professionally?
Yeah, I was teaching since out of college at a little outdoor school in Tennessee.
Where out in Tennessee? Because we have quite a few fans who are in the Tennessee area.
Chattanooga, Tennessee, specifically.
Okay, and then you were talking a lot about a local race there that I really am intrigued to do.
Yeah, I've been doing major plug. It's the 25th anniversary of Stump Jump 50K in Chattanooga this upcoming year, which is a super cool homegrown race that we have. It's super technical, super fun, and everyone should come run it.
Yeah, and it's a fairly you say it's homegrown, but it's fairly popular in the U.S. and always attracts some quite elite attention, at least in the last 10 years that it's been around. What's the course like? I know that's just a unique course, especially it's near and dear to a lot of Tennesseans. Is that what you say, Tennesseans?
Yeah, some Tennesseans. Yeah, it's super, super technical, which is really fun. It starts off, you get maybe 30 seconds on a road, and then it dips into just roots and rocks for the next 31 miles. It goes into our river gorge, so you get some cool glimpses of some creeks, and it's just kind of the epitome of Southeast running to me, where there's some slick, mossy rocks. There's a whole rock garden that's kind of infamous with it that you have to trot through at mile 18. And it just really, it takes a lot of concentration to get through it, but you also get to be really in tune with running the entire time.
Yeah, and that terrain down there is so unique, and where Stump Jump takes place is such a unique pocket of Tennessee as well. But yeah, that's a good plug for this race. Is that something you go back and do every single year?
Yes, I think I've done it 5 times now, where it's one I always waffle. There's a 10-mile option as well. I'm like, I could have fun at the 10 or I could suffer a little on the 50K. It's a good spring regardless.
Is that something in the books for this year after your huge performance at Leadville?
Probably. I always say, no, I'm not going to do it again. And then all my friends start talking about it. And then somehow there's 20 of us that are doing it. So I'll say a strong probably.
Okay. Is it a spring race? Is that right?
Yes, it's the beginning of March.
Okay, so you have some time. But right now, we're chatting in real time, just a few days removed from the Leadville 100, and I'd imagine you wouldn't want to be running it right now. How are you feeling after Leadville?
Yeah, my legs are surprisingly pretty good. I never get sore hamstrings, and my hamstrings are toast. So I'm like, okay, maybe in training I'm not hitting my hamstrings somehow. It's an odd new feeling, but other than that, it's pretty much just my stomach that's a little wacky, which I'm kind of excited to go back down to sea level and get a hard reset for my body.
Yeah, so what does that look like for you on the recovery part? Of are you trying to move? What are you trying to do?
I've had several coaching calls this week. I coach as my full-time gig now, so I've been walking around taking phone calls and have probably walked 3 miles every day just chatting with folks. A nice way to work and move simultaneously.
Just kind of fleshing the legs out.
Yeah.
Let's go back to just before the race. You've had a really great year this year of a really full couple of seasons of racing. And like you had mentioned, you You were an ambassador last year for La Sportiva. You're on the elite team this year. Um, the types of races you've been getting into, has that been a result of your elite kind of jump up to the elite team, or are those races that you would have done otherwise?
I think my primary goal with the races I've chosen in the last really 3 or 4 years has been benchmarks of progress for myself, where I've done Black Canyon 3 years ago, Canyons 2 years ago, did Gorge this spring, of like picking the really competitive 100Ks just to see where I stack up. Where Tennessee's incredible, the Southeast elite that lives in that area is incredible, but it's a very small pocket of incredible runners, and I don't really see where I am competitively racing there. So I try to really pick races where I can be as immersed in the community as possible and really get to experience running with really talented women.
And so that hearing it that way of like it's no surprise to your performance recently at Leadville. And I know a 100-mile performance isn't given, but I mean it makes sense. Like you took fifth place at Gorge Waterfalls, and that was a it was a world qualifying race for the world team for the long trail portion of it. And for those of you that aren't familiar with how the World Championships works in trail running, there's a few different races. You could do the short course, you could do the long course, and then there's a VK. And you were going for the long course team, right, with that 100K. And
Yes.
you narrowly, very narrow margin missed it with a fifth place finish in that kind of field, which is super impressive. How did you feel coming off of a performance at Gorge Waterfalls in the spring?
I think that was a super hopeful feeling race for me, where I finished and just started crying, where I was like, okay, this was a performance that I've been wanting for several years, where I feel like I have belief in myself and my potential in this sport, but wasn't sure really where I stacked up. And that was one where everything felt like it went well the entire day. All the pieces kind of came together, and it made me really excited. Like I was thinking about a ton of different races after that one, because I was like, man, I'm ready to do more things. I want to keep trying races. It just made me really excited for the future.
Yeah, and with the exception of like Western States or next week's UTMB, like that for an elite field globally, that was one of the best ever elite women's field assembled. So you have to feel just so incredibly proud of that performance.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So like when you're in a race like that, in many people who are in trail racing will never have that experience of like really vying for the podium or a world spot of like when did you realize during that race like you had potential to make the team, but also what's going through your head throughout the race as you're vying for those spots?
Well, it was one where I really didn't think was going to go well. I was super exhausted trying to balance teaching with, I had enough athletes to be a full time coach at that stage. So I was working 2 full-time jobs along with trying to run 70 to 80-mile weeks at that stage. And I had a call with my coach beforehand and was like, I don't even know if I can do this. I was kind of freaking out. And then I went in with the mindset of just having a fun day, and then started off in the first mile. I was like, oh, I feel amazing. Like it was one of those just like synergistic moments where I was running 7 flat pace up a hill and felt fantastic at the beginning of this 100K and was like, maybe this is going to be a day. And then I think at mile 20 or so, I was in second place. I was like, I've either totally screwed up and gone out way too hard and I'm going to die, or it's still going to be a good day. And I faded a little bit after the 50K mark, but it just kept getting put together and pulled off fifth. So it was
Like in the 100-mile distance, the 100K distance is really kind of bridging into that space in time on foot or time at a certain effort where you have to plan a lot to be able to make it happen. Like a marathon, they say you can't cheat the marathon of like you can't cheat 100K either, like even on the trails, even being strategic. What are some things throughout that race did you learn that really set you up for success kind of the following summer?
I think this is kind of a comical point. I learned that throwing up is okay. I puked at mile 52 of that one and just like kind of running through the motion of it and then felt totally fine afterwards. And I'm so thankful that that happened because I started throwing up mile 80 to the finish of Leadville and I didn't have a moment of panic of like, oh, this is the end. I was like, well, this is part of it. We're just rolling with it. It's fine. So that was a cool like get that benchmark out of the way moment kind of.
Well, I always say
And
experience pays for itself in this sport, and that's one of those things of like I'm throwing up, but I'm okay.
everything's fine. Yes. I think also just that it's okay to hurt early, where that one at the 50K mark, I was like, ooh, I'm feeling pretty bad. And that was the lowest point of the whole race, and it bounced back. Where I think in these events, it's not uncommon to feel bad earlier than you expect. And instead of panicking, you kind of just have to lean into that suffering, and then you're going to come around the other side, and you can still have a good day, even if you feel bad at mile 20 of 100.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with Eli Hemming last week, and he was talking about like the difference between pain and suffering. And in these longer races, it's really that suffering that you gotta be okay with. Like you're going into this race knowing there will be suffering. It's just like for how long or in what ways. Okay, and so then was that a similar case then when you went to Broken Arrow? At Broken Arrow, you could do one of any of the races, or you could do what you did, super weird, and do the Triple Crown and do the three major races there over 3 different days. Is there a similar mentality going into that? Because the longest race is 46K.
Yeah, I think that one was kind of a bucket list one where I raced Broken Arrow 3 years ago, did the 46K with a bunch of my friends, and was like, all right, I'm going to come back and do the Triple Crown one day. And I'm not sure I really processed what that meant going into it. It was just like on the calendar. As soon as it opened, I signed up. And then it got to June. It was like winding up the teaching year. Everything was super busy. And then we were suddenly driving to California, where I think I kind of got to that start line and was like, all right, we're doing this now. We're here. It like hadn't fully processed in my brain. And then it kind of was just full steam ahead from there, where I don't think it's one that I really put a ton of mental effort into, which good or bad, it it went fine. But it was kind of an interesting one of just like, all right, it's here, we're doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those ignorance is bliss almost of like you're thrust into it. And also me being a teacher, I know what those the end of a school year is like, and I never plan races around the end of the school year because it's so demanding. But the one good thing, and maybe you found this to be the case too, of like the structure that a job for us, it was teaching, the structure of it, and just like having to budget out so much of your day was actually really helpful sometimes. But now you're going into a career that you don't necessarily have to budget so much or plan on being on feet all day after you do a hard workout in the morning and all those logistics. Have you found that kind of transitioning out of teaching into just coaching and running? Have you found some new patterns of life? And I know it's all new to you. Have you found some benefits or negatives as you made that transition this summer?
Yeah, I think I mentioned at the expo when we were talking a little bit where I kind of feel like teaching is a superpower in some ways, where so much of ultra running is fatigue resistance, where working an 8 hour day on feet with children demanding your attention constantly and then trying to go for a 10 to 12 mile run with a workout in the midst is about as prepared for an ultra as you could be. So I was a little scared to be losing a little spark of something by getting away from teaching, but also really excited to be able to love running a little bit more, where it felt like this last year that love was leaking away and it was becoming an obligation to go on a run as opposed to the source of something that I love more than anything. Where this summer I definitely got back to just big adventures where I intentionally picked routes in the mountains for my long runs and spent 5 to 7 hours in the woods every single weekend and had the energy to give to that part of myself that loves exploring. And it just wasn't chaos filled, which was a strange experience for me, where it feels very peaceful to sit on a porch and drink a cup of coffee and then go on an 11 o'clock run for 4 hours and then come back and be able to work a little more and decompress and prioritize fuel and sleep and all of those pieces, as opposed to just like survival.
Yeah, yeah, survival's a good way to put it. Yeah, there's something to be said about like having the flexibility within just your life circumstances, and not always. I know many runners face that every single day, and we did for a while too, of like, yeah, it's just hard to and with goals after as big as yours in this arena, like I hope you're just finding a lot of solace and reprieve from being able to be more single-minded, because that's sometimes what it takes. Can you tell us about some of the adventures you went on this summer? Because I know you haven't spent a lot of time in Chattanooga.
Yeah, it's been kind of an absurd summer in the absolute best way. So I finished teaching, and I think 2 days later, we started driving. My husband and I started driving to Salt Lake City to meet up with a friend that was out there.
How many
And
hours
then
is that from Chattanooga to Salt Lake City?
I think 28.
28. So where did he stop along the way? Like he had to run, right?
Yeah, we actually spent a few days in Taos, New Mexico, which, if you haven't been to Taos, is incredible. It was our 1 year wedding anniversary. So we got kind of a nice Airbnb in the Taos area. And we were dumb. We did our first run at altitude of the summer up Mount Wheeler for a marathon for our anniversary. And then didn't have the energy to go out to our anniversary dinner because we both wrecked ourselves. So that was a good
At least you're in good company.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I feel like New Mexico is still quite untapped for trail running. It has some of the best trails I've ever run on. Like in the Taos area, there's a 50 miler called the Jemez Mountain 50. Just incredible. And it's kind of one of those races that a lot of trail runners would use as their last big race before Western States. So keep that on your bucket list. But yeah, that sounds awesome. So then from Taos, you went up to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, just for a few days, kind of as a check mark before heading up to Broken Arrow area.
Yeah, and that's another 8 hours. That's quite the road trip. Wow.
Yeah, it's like third summer in a row doing it because my husband's family is from California. So we kind of use it as an excuse to slowly see the country and run on the way to visiting them.
So have you like chose different routes every time you go?
Yes, we've done super low and spent some time in Flagstaff. We've done the Colorado route, and we haven't gone up high yet. We need to explore Wyoming.
Oh, yeah, another pretty untapped. But then you get like big bears and stuff like that. I don't love that. And I'm a wildlife lover. But
I had a friend yesterday who saw a bear on Mount Massive, so they're
oh
here
yeah,
too.
but those are just the black bears, not the massive brown ones. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so then the last few weeks leading up to Leadville, you've also had some adventures. I'm going to poke at the one you did with your little buddy, the burro.
Yes.
So yeah, Colorado has this weird thing. I don't know of it anywhere else. Do you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's really like in the Collegiate Peaks area where this is like Leadville has it, Buena Vista has it, Salida has some races, Fairplay, but they're all basically in the same area of mining towns, and it's called burro racing. Can you tell people about that?
Yeah. Well, first off, if anyone has the opportunity to ever do a burro race, you absolutely should. It was so much fun. You get a little burro companion where a lot of people out here own them and train with the burro year round.
Which is a donkey, for those who don't know, a burro.
The fun way of saying donkey. And you can also rent one. So we saw the Leadville Boom Days advertisements on Facebook that they were going to have a burro race 2 days before the burro race happened, and messaged Leadville Boom Days on Facebook. Was like, hey, I know it's last minute, but I really want to race a burro. And they messaged back and they're like, well, we've got one burro left. It's a little guy, but he's sweet and he's a trooper. So you can use him if you want. So that was my peak week for Leadville. And the burro race was Sunday. And I had to practice with the burro on Saturday. And I also had a 22-mile run. So I got up super early. I ran 20 miles. I went into town and got a super quick sandwich and then went to go practice with my burro. So the final 2 miles of my 22-mile run.
What was your burro's name again?
Dylan.
Dylan.
Dylan the burro. Yes. Which he did not want to go that first day. I was not optimistic.
Which I'm trying to think of, like, is this actually like a joke for people, or is it actually a sport that people want to perform at? Because you're completely at the mercy of your burro.
There's prize money. People like take it very seriously. There's not prize money for the 100, but there's a lot of money for the burro race. So, yeah, it looks like people like take them out year round for practice, and it's apparently healthy for the burros to get exercise. Like they get kind of chunky in the winter, so people actually just take them for runs to stay fit during the rest of the year anyway out here.
Because a lot of times those burros are used for like just being an aware animal within other stock. And so I'm sure, yeah, I guess you have to have a healthy, fit burro to chase off coyotes and mountain lions and whatnot.
Yes.
So how did your race go?
My race was, I would say, a success for my first burro race. My little guy finished. Burros are pack animals, so he made a friend at the beginning and would not move unless he was with his friend, with his nose on the back of his friend. So I had never met the other burro racer before, and we got to spend 5 quality hours together trying to bring our burros together. My little guy was little enough that I could get behind him and shove him uphill. So I spent a lot of time like leaning against my burro, pushing him, and then going yip yip to motivate him to move. It was an exercise in patience.
So then during Leadville 100, did your husband pace you and say yip yip when he needed it?
He did say yip yip a few times. We'd said in advance that he was going to do that. And at that point, I was puking and grumpy, and I'm not sure that I fully processed the yip yip, but it was there.
But now it's funny. I'm sure he would appreciate knowing it's funny. Just kidding.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's go to the beginning of Leadville, because it's one of America's biggest 100-mile races, like legendary in its own right. What motivated you to want to do Leadville in the first place?
Well, it was cool. The day after the race, I had a memory pop up on my phone of a picture I'd taken in my college dorm my freshman year with the race page pulled up, like dreaming of doing it one day, where I feel like it's everyone's first 100 that they hear of, from Born to Run or just from discussions about hundreds, where it's always been something I wanted to do. And then the connection with Sportiva, being the sponsor of the race, was kind of just the perfect reason this year to give it a shot.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like when people find out you're a runner, a trail runner, that's one of the first questions they ask. Have you done Leadville? And now you can say yes. Yeah. So the morning of the race, yeah, everybody's just kind of gathering around. It's kind of like that low level electricity, because it is 4 a.m. after all. And, everybody's faced with this fact that they're trying to go 100 miles at elevation is one of the challenges. It's a fairly runnable course, in terms of like the mileage that is runnable versus not. And it also has the unique thing that it's an out and back. And so you get to see everything and everybody twice. Hopefully everybody that stays in there, minus me. But I guess I got to see you on the way back.
Yeah, we saw each other twice.
Yeah, so on that morning, it's just such a unique feeling. And I've been there as a coach, I've been there as a spectator, and now I've been there on that start line. How did you feel just coming into that day?
I want to say fantastic, and it wasn't fantastic. I think I managed to remain not anxious the whole week building up, distracting myself. And the night before, somehow laying there, I felt just ill, where I think I slept 15 minutes maybe the night before.
Well, that's why
Where
they talk about the night before the night before.
Yes, the night before actually doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I like paced around our tiny house. I tried to sleep on the couch. I tried to sleep in the loft. I tried a whole bunch of things. Didn't sleep any. Woke up that morning and was just absolutely sick to my stomach. There's
Is
an
that
awesome...
typically you before a race or not?
No, I don't know what hit about this one. I just think it really mattered to me and felt like a big deal. So I think the morning of was just such a visceral like feeling of fear.
And you had done one other 100-miler, right?
Yes, Pinhoti 100 in 2021.
Okay, so it had been quite a few years too, but if you're like me, like I still really freshly remember that suffering of my first 100 and gutting it to the finish. Was that mulling around in your head at all?
A little bit. I think this time it was more in my head that I wanted to be competitive. Like I didn't know what chance I had of podiuming, but I really deep down that was the goal. I really wanted to have a strong day out here and see what I could do and show myself that I had what it took to have a good day. So I think that pressure, as opposed to just wanting to finish and eat snacks and have a fun time in the woods with my friends, type of vibe of my first one was very different.
Yeah. So then get to the start line. Are you still feeling ill?
Honestly, I had a gel and it kind of helped. It was like so routine where every run out here takes so long that I'd had like 5 gels a day. It felt like most days where my poor husband made me like a nice snack for breakfast, some good stuff, and I didn't eat that. There's an awesome picture on my Instagram that I posted of him like holding up toast and I'm like eating my little gel before the start line. So that somehow calmed it, like felt like a normal thing to do. And I was like, okay, I've had my gel, we're good to go.
And then the gun goes off. You had told me when we had met on course, we had shared some miles together, that your first mile was it like 6:30 or something like that?
I looked, it was 6:19. Good.
Oh gosh, for a 100-mile race. So what are you thinking at that point? Take us through your day on how you felt, what was going on, because it's such a unique race in that of like, it's slight downhill where you have a few miles of pavement before a very gentle climb up to that first aid station. How was that section between town and May Queen, which is that first aid station around mile 12-ish, 13?
Yeah, the start line itself kind of set the tone for that, where I had originally chosen a spot a few rows back from the front, and Katie Asmuth saw me and was like, "Women, line up at the front," and pulled me up to the front. And we were right beside David Roach, who coaches both of us. So all of us like held hands and had a really cool moment on the starting line. And then I was like, I'm going to try to stay with Katie. And we started off and Katie was going. and
she's someone who has quite a bit of experience. Hoka athlete,
yes.
has experienced top 10 finishes in Western states, does really well like globally. So you're running side by side with this woman who's
someone I've really looked up to for a long time. And I stayed close to her and Flower, who went on to win the race, for about a half a mile. And then they started pulling out ahead where they could have had a sub-6 first mile. I'm not really sure exactly what they did, but I was a good bit behind them when my watch clicked over to 6:19. And then I was like, I'm going to back off a tiny bit, and watched them fade a tiny bit into the distance, where it should have been a sign. We could still see David and his orange shirts glowing in the distance, where at mile 2, if you can still see David, you've done something slightly wrong, I think. So that was a moment where I was like taking some deep breaths and like, okay, the race is not being podiumed here. We're going to chill out. So I let Ann and Katie go and kind of settled into a pack of guys that I stayed with all the way around Twin Lakes to May Queen. And I actually just had a super fun time. It was like a group of 4 people where we were kind of just chatting around the lake and trying not to get lost, turning off in the dark, and just kind of enjoying relaxing and trying to let some of that adrenaline fade from the really quick start.
Yeah, because then pretty much thereafter you're doing a steady, but again, very runnable climb. And if you're feeling good and you want to run that, you might. Were you running most of that first climb up the backside of power lines from the lake?
I was really determined to run all of Powerline outbound because I'd done so in training. It was actually a really special training run where Kate Courtney was out for a training ride and I was doing a little tempo workout up Powerline, and we were going the same pace for like 2 minutes with her biking and me running. So I got to hang out with her for a second. The winner of the mountain bike race. Yeah.
The winner and massive course record holder as of this year, Kate Courtney. Yeah, that's
So I was
pretty
like,
awesome.
okay, I got to run this again. I did last time. I can do it. And it was a shuffle run, but jogged every step of it and was stoked on that.
And then after that, coming down power lines, you can start to see and hear the crowd of the first major aid station around mile 23, which is outward bound. You get to see your crew for the first time. The sun is up. How are you feeling coming into that aid station?
Kind of euphoric at that point, where the just energy of the people out there was insane. And I had 7 friends from Tennessee that had come out to cheer and got to see all of my people. The Sportiva tent was there. It kind of felt like a surreal moment where it was like a combination of everything good that was happening with people and life at that one aid station. So I zipped through there super fast, got kind of a burst of energy for like a half a mile, and then I totally crashed. And then I found you.
Yeah. Then we saw each other. And so from there, just to describe the course a little bit, you kind of like finish through this field, then you have some pavement miles. But I would say the incline probably bumps up a percentage or two from what you had been running besides power lines. And so it's just kind of constant up. You get this energy burst, but again, it's all runnable, so it can be tricky. And then, yeah, we saw each other not too long after the pipeline crew spot. Where the field really starts to spread out a little bit, especially if you're on that front end. You could be in a pack, you could be spread out, not seeing people. I remember passing a couple people and then seeing someone who had the same shirt as I did. I'm like, oh, that's Leah. Awesome. So we got to share a few miles, but you weren't feeling that great. And that's pretty early on in 100 to not be feeling great. What were you feeling?
Yeah, I can't tell you how happy I was to see you because I was sad. I had had a yeah, I had kind of a weird like cramping stomach since about mile 8, where it wasn't nausea per se, but it felt like maybe the breathing so hard was using my core in a weird way, where it just felt like my entire stomach was clenched and just kind of stayed like that, like 2 really bad side stitches almost.
Which that's
Where
the thing in ultras of like, there's so many things that come up and you try to train for, but not everything you train for happens during training, or not everything that happens during the race necessarily happens in training because you are going longer typically, or sometimes even slightly more intense for longer. And so were you thinking like, were you getting into the catastrophic mindset, or was just something you've experienced before and wanted to go through again, like puking?
no, I wasn't thrilled about it, but I was so appreciative that I'd had a phone call with David Roach beforehand, where his biggest advice to me for this race was that it was going to suck and it was going to suck early on. And that a huge piece of this was that it rewarded people that kept moving through the bad moments. And you were going to have good moments again, and you were going to have bad moments again. But if you just kept putting one foot in front of the other, you were going to have a good day regardless. So I kind of had that continually playing over in my head. I was like, this is going to turn around. It's going to turn around. And it eventually did on the downhill. So it was just kind of gritting that out, and having your company definitely helped.
It was nice to have someone to chat with and someone that you're fairly familiar with too. We had met the day before and, bonded over teaching and whatnot. No, that was definitely, I had half the distance as you, but that was one of the highlights of my race too. So then just kind of moving along the course. You have that low point, and then there's a longer downhill, which I knew you were looking forward to that downhill because you're like, it could be here. We were keep like poking over this Aspeny Ridge. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? And then once we hit the downhills, that's where I was struggling with just a foot injury, but that was obviously where you felt strong because I lost you going into Twin Lakes. So how was that going into Twin Lakes, which is the biggest aid station on course where you get to see everybody and everybody is hanging out for most of the day?
My strategy for the whole day was to really lean into downhills where it's the point I feel most confident in running, whether it's a technical downhill, whether it's a smooth one. I really love bombing. So it really helped mentally. I don't know if it was a mental or physical thing, but each time I got to a descent, I was like, okay, we're turning it on. Turn on music and just really push myself through those sections. And it ended up, I felt great at the bottom of that descent. It's kind of funny. Everyone at Twin Lakes thought I felt fantastic the whole time because I came in great spirits, and I was like, this is a lie, but we're gonna come in smiling and get to chat with everyone.
You can't help but smile. That's the thing. You're coming into like all your loved ones, and it's like a 4th of July parade there. Like all of the streets are lined with rows of people. It's just a unique experience. But and at that time, you would have been like maybe, were you top 20 or just in the upper 20s for place? Did you know at that time?
I think I was 4th or 5th for women was kind of what I was keeping track of more, where I'd gotten passed by a few people on that uphill section. I was like, all right, we're fine. Like I was kind of in my head trying to talk myself down of like, okay, if we get top 15 women, I'm going to be happy. If we get 25 hours, we're going to be happy. I was like kind of downplaying my expectations to myself at that point, where I was like, okay, if we finish this race, I'm going to be stoked regardless of what the result is.
Yeah, and it's one of those races too, and I find this with a lot of trail races because they still do have that like homegrown feel you were talking about stump jump. Leadville still has that to an extent, even though it's one of the bigger races in the country. So you can get someone who like you've never even heard of, and they're just crushing it. You don't always get that in like an elite marathon field of someone out of the blue, but for some reason in this ultra running thing, the door is wide open for anybody. So some of the women that you had been running with or just ahead of you or had passed you and I are like quote unquote no names in terms of like the elite field. So it just always surprises me of like who's going to be there, and were you aware of who or where people were at that point?
I think I was pretty conscious of who most people were. Corinne Cowboy's podcast series beforehand was very cool for knowing a lot of the women, at least. But there was also several other swap people out there, which was super cool, where the woman who ended up getting second, we ran together for a while, Imogen, is also on swap. And we'd gotten to chat and run together for a little bit and talk about that, where I come from a background of cross country where it was women pitted against women by my coach. And ultra running is such a special sport because it's women rooting for women, even when we're in competition with each other, where I never found myself frustrated that someone was passing me. It was more of like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for her. She's doing well in this moment. Maybe I'll see her again. Maybe I won't. But it's so easy to root for people out there because, you know, everyone's trying their hardest and suffering and digging to those deep places. It's very cool.
Yeah, my college coach would always talk about competing with people rather than against, and I always appreciate that mentality, and it always seemed to bring the best out of me. And if it's bringing the best out of me, it's probably bringing the best out of someone else, and that's just one of the ways to elevate the competition for sure. So then, right after Twin Lakes, what was your crew saying to you, or what were you telling your crew when you came into Twin Lakes? Because you don't see them again for another like handful of hours at least. If you're David Roche, it's 5 hours going up and over and back. So for anybody else, it's longer. It's a long time without your crew. So what did they tell you, or what did you talk to them about before going up and over Hope Pass?
They asked if I was hot, I remember, and my response, which kind of surprised how I felt at that point, was, I don't know how I feel, which I was like, I don't know how I feel about anything. I'm just going to keep moving. Where
It wasn't like a hot day necessarily. I mean, it was in the 60s, but you do get the bouts of sun when you're at 10 to 12,000 feet, and that can feel hot. Were you feeling hot?
kind of much more so on the way back from Winfield. I feel like the sun on that side of Hope Pass started to get pretty gross. But at the aid station, I was like, I think I'm fine. They were putting sunscreen and ice on me anyway. And I was like, okay, just do things to me and I'm going to get out of here.
And that's the beauty of like having a crew that knows you and knows what you need and probably have talked about this all beforehand. And that's something that's different. Like my sister was at this trail race for the first time and experienced all this firsthand of like the aid station at a trail ultra race is so different than what many like have experienced in a half marathon or a marathon on the road. Like what do you do when you come in? So when you say they did a bunch of things to you and for you, what kind of things are those?
Yeah, it was the most dialed a crew has been, which I really appreciate from my friends. Everyone was super prepared. I had a new pack to put on with my quiver and poles on it to take up Hope Pass. So someone grabbed my phone, someone grabbed my pack, they put a new pack on me. I had another friend putting sunscreen on. I had another friend putting ice in my bra. I had another friend getting me new bottles. Like six of my closest people around me just doing everything I needed to stay cool and hydrated and to be prepared for a really long climb.
And it feels like one of those like NASCAR pit stops rather than just a kind of sliding through. Everybody's just doing the job they were given to do, and then you're out of there.
Absolutely.
So then you leave the energy of Twin Lakes, trot across the field, go across a river, and then it smacks you in the face. Hope Pass. How was that for you?
I was really looking forward to the climb. I think I told you out there, I was like, I can't wait to hike. I'm so excited to hike. Where it was just a different rhythm for a while, which was super nice. I don't pride myself on being an excellent hiker, but it's something I've really worked on improving being out here in Colorado, where there's actually 4,000, 5,000 foot climbs as opposed to my little hill in Chattanooga. So I was just trying to have an inner monologue telling myself, you're good at hills now. It's okay. We just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I tried to really focus on the scenery of that one, where it's so cool watching it change from lush forest to really epic alpine as you go through that 4 mile section.
Yeah, and it's 4 miles, which doesn't sound that long, but it is like what, almost 3,000 feet of gain in that 4 miles, which is that's even in Colorado, that's hard terrain to find, even though we do have big climbs. But like that's a really legitimate climb. So that's where you and I kind of met up again. Hey, buddy, on the uphill. I had come from behind and you were cooking. I think it was fun to see you kind of like, because the last time I saw you, you weren't feeling that great. And then we saw each other again. It kind of flip-flopped. I was starting to not feel that great, felt fine, but it was just awesome to see you like determined and going and still able to smile. You were smiling at that point.
Yeah, I was just still, I think, so thankful to be out there where Hope Pass, I'd kind of put in my head was like a mountain marathon in the midst of the 100 miler. So I was trying to get all I could out of the mountain marathon section of this race.
Yeah, which is a huge mountain marathon. It has like nearly half of the climbing you do the whole day is just in that marathon segment. And then again, once we got to the top of Hope Pass, I was a few strides away from you. I was starting to like put my poles away, and then I look up and you were gone. It was awesome and striding down the backside, which is even steeper than the front side. And like so steep that it is actually kind of hard to run sometimes. Did you run most of that section down?
Yeah, I ran the whole downhill there, which that was where I told myself again that I was going to make up some time, where it was just full commit to the downhill. And I really enjoyed that section where it feels kind of homey. We have a segment in Chattanooga called Pipeline that's just a super steep pipeline that's like dirt and rugged that feels very similar to the bottom mile of that. I was like, okay, I'm home. I can run down this. It's okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a steep a steep descent for a while, but then it turns into this really kind of weird pseudo uphill, very runnable section that's like you don't know if it's going uphill or is it flat or but it's so runnable and weird. Were you able to run that whole section? Yeah.
Kind of. It was back to that like super slow shuffle jog where I was really trying to run and it was kind of half working. But it was a cool spot to start getting energy boosts from people coming back inbound. It was all the people that I look up to coming by me, where it was super cool to see Katie again and to see Ann Flower, and both of them looked so strong, where it was just a very inspirational section of camaraderie.
So then, as an elite level athlete, I know you talked about the competing with piece, um, but are you gauging them? Like, are you looking at them and feeling encouraged? Or are you saying, like, okay, they look like this. I'm going to put on, like a 10-minute surge so I can make up a little bit of time? Like, what were you thinking in terms of competition there?
I think in terms of those two, I thought they were gone. I think they were a good 3 miles ahead of me at that stage. So I was like, okay, I'm going to let them go. The other two women that were in front of me, I passed one on the downhill. So I was really conscious of trying to keep putting time on her, and then was trying to pass the other woman who was probably 5 minutes in front of me as well. So it was kind of, I like the term leapfrogging at that stage with the like third, fourth, and fifth place women. So it was definitely a conscientiousness of where both of them were. And when I got to Winfield, I spent maybe a minute there and was just trying to spend as little time as possible not moving.
Yeah, which is totally the strategy there because you don't want to get comfortable at that point because you have half of the race left in front of you. So then I saw you one more time as I'm like hobbling in and you were running on the outhill and I just in my mind from a coaching standpoint, I would just like, she has it. I don't know how you were feeling at that time, but you smiled. You told me congratulations, but I just like knew you were going to have a good rest of your day. How did the rest of your day go? Because I obviously didn't see you.
Well, at that point, I felt pretty good when I saw you again heading back out. But then, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to die on the return on Hope Pass. That was such an interesting thing because I was really excited to see the people passing. And I think I spent too much energy trying to talk to people where everyone was so kind. And a lot of people were like, good job, you're doing amazing, you look fantastic, all that stuff. And originally I was like, so do you, you're amazing, you're awesome. But they're all going downhill, not using as much energy. And I was trying to go up, where I apologize if anyone said good job to me near the top of Hope Pass, where it slowly diminished from like an enthusiastic thanks to like, thanks, to like trying to like grimace smile at people as they talked to me and like crawl my way back up to the top of Hope Pass.
And then have it within your quads to be able to get down from Hope Pass again. Were there
Yeah,
any
which
other like yeah, go ahead.
oh, that was a highlight. I got the crown down from Hope Pass, which had been a goal going into where I love my technical downhills and I'd done it in training. And I was like, if I have a source, tiny bit of energy left, I'm going to try to bomb down from Hope, and pulled that off. And that kind of switched things around again, where I kind of got a little adrenaline rush of dancing through that technical section at the bottom, where I came back into Twin Lakes and was so wildly hyped up.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, your coach David Roach too knows that section really well. Did he give you any specific things to think about or pointers for those segments? Because I think he also got the crown again going.
Not specifically. I had done the training run out here and I texted him in all caps after running down it and said, I love Hope Pass.
You're weird.
Yeah. I just really, it feels like Appalachia. If you've ever been to the Smoky Mountains, it's like rushing creeks and green pine trees and a ton of roots and rocks. And surely that bottom 2 miles I had in my head, I was like, this is like the Smokies. You know how to do this. And that really helped me click into a gear of feeling really comfortable.
And then from that point on, you had a couple highlights and maybe a low light or two. Do you want to share some of those as you brought yourself back to the finish with crew, because you can pick up your pacers at Twin Lakes again, which is like my 100K in, mile 62 or something like that. Did you pick up a pacer?
I did. My pacer, I had three pacers, two of my really good friends, and then my husband for the last section, where my friend Charlie started off
Could be a
with me.
hard time to place your spouse.
Yeah,
They know you
we.
best, but you
He was
also know.
wonderful.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll I'll kind of quickly go through each one. The first one, Charlie did amazing. He took the mule thing very seriously, where I just had a bottle and he like force fed me the entire time and had like very consciousness with his watch where he was like, gel time, electrolytes time, water time. And I was like, okay. Oh, so that was the thing with him. Then I got my friend Will at Powerline, and that section was when I passed Katie and moved into third place. She was having some GI distress and was just the nicest human she possibly could have been. I passed her and she was like, "I'm so proud of you." And it made me so happy. It was such a cool moment with this woman that I really look up to, and she's obviously having a hard time, but being so kind.
Which is like amazing, but not surprising if you've been in this community long
Yeah,
enough of like, gosh, that's just the ultra running community. That's awesome. And
it was really
Powerlines is no joke on the way back. Um, Not to bring spoilers to too many people out there who might experience Leadville someday. There's a unsanctioned, unidentified aid station near the top. Did that give you a boost?
those folks got to see me throw up all over the place. So I don't know. I was so excited because I'd had no big GI distress all day and
And
was
how many
running.
gels did you say you had? Like
Huh?
40
42.
some? Oh, yeah.
42. But I was really happy after Outward Bound, Inbound. And then we started going up Powerline. And I think somehow going from 10,000 feet back to 11 was just the end. My stomach was like, nope.
And you let it all go. Did you feel better at least after that?
Kind of. Unfortunately, I think I emptied out my stomach. So I was dry heaving for a good chunk of time where I would like jog for 5 minutes and then dry heave and jog for 9 minutes. But it was the same thing. We started going downhill and everything was fantastic again. So I don't know.
That's a great downhill to really nail kind of your last big descent. And then you
Yeah.
then you picked up your husband as a pacer at May Queen.
Yes, which we did not have fun together, which I feel bad for him. Charlie and Will, we had a fantastic time. And then I got into Mayfield and I was like, Mike, it's not fun anymore. I'm not having fun. And
But I mean, who better to not have fun with than your best friend? Like they're the ones who can really handle it from you.
that was really the thought with him facing me there, where I was like, I want to cross that finish line with him by my side. He's the person who's done the training runs with me. He's the one who's fed me when I've been wrecked after long runs this summer and taken care of me. He's been just wonderful throughout this whole experience.
So then what was it like coming into those final miles and ultimately the finish line as the third place female in, I think like average time for females in the top 10 was much lower than any other year before, which is incredible. Like for a third place finish, you had a 20:39, is that right?
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, 20:39. Typically for females, that'd be like second place would be like in the 22 hours range or something like that, which is huge to have so many females in the top 10 overall. Did you know that coming in?
Yeah, I knew where I was. I was running scared because I had no idea where fourth place was. In my mind, I was like, Katie's going to rally. She's coming for me. I didn't know where the other one was. It was some great motivation to run the last 3 miles where it was really magical syncing up with my husband. I turned on music out loud on my phone to some of our favorite songs. We were just totally in tune, charging up those last 3 miles on the hills together, and just kind of trying to soak it in, where cresting that last hill before the down and up roller coaster to the finish line, I think that was the first moment where I was like, oh, I've stayed in third. I've done it. And it was like that minute time period to really soak in the whole day and try to process like sprinting to the finish line and thinking about the whole experience and really knowing that I made it.
And at that point in time, what were you just ready to be done? Were you like so revved up? Like how was your finish line feel?
Very ready to be done. I was nauseous and in pain at that stage, but also just kind of in a state of disbelief where I thought in the best case scenario I could run in the 19-20 hour range, but there's never a guarantee that you're going to get the best case scenario out there. And I was just so excited to make it. My parents had flown out from Tennessee and were there at the finish line. All my friends were there. The La Sportiva folks were there. It was just seeing all these people that I care about that helped me get to that place was just such a special feeling, because it wasn't just something that I did. It was something that I did with the support of this huge community that I didn't even have a few years ago. And it's just something that I wish I could tell 5 years ago me was happening, because I wouldn't have believed it. It's like too good to be true in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm sure it was such a saturated moment in a lot of ways. And, like that's in a lot of ways, ultra running or running in general can be a great metaphor for life. So like just knowing they have your back, and not just running, but everything else. That's got to feel good.
Absolutely. And it was just so cool knowing the next person that came in was also a woman. So it was 4 women in the top 10, all with some of the fastest
Which has never
times.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I looked up, just out of curiosity, historic times, and possibly the girl that got 4th as well. But at least the top 3 all had in the top 20 all-time fastest times ever, which is crazy to all happen on 1 year.
So then immediately after, is that like, I'm coming back again to Leadville, or like, yes, I'm going to put this race on my calendar, or are you the type that like, I just need to chill?
It's funny. I'm generally someone who is immediately wanting to plan the next thing. And for this one, I'm kind of just wanting to sit in it for a little while. I think I gave it maybe more of everything that I've ever given to one before, where that last 20 miles, I really had a hard time. And I still don't feel 100%, just totally normal today, even, where, yeah, give me till like next Monday, and then I'm going to have like 20 million dumb ideas for the future.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of great ideas you have.
Thank you.
Well, Lea, thanks again for your time. Congratulations on a huge career achievement that many people would just love to have on their race resume, and just really excited to see where this continues to launch you forward into.
Well, thank you. It was a special one out there, and just if anyone's ever interested in doing Leadville, it's a special place and special community.
And I heard there's some coaches who know the course really well now that could help you out with that potentially. Do you want to plug your own coaching right now?
Yeah, I would love to. I would be so excited to help anyone achieve big dreams with this race. Our business is Woodland Creatures Endurance, and we've got an Instagram and website with a bunch of info about following stoke and love for being out in the woods.
What better way to spend a day? Stoked and in the woods. Thank you, Lea.
Thank you.
Give a good stretch, got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you want to tuck run, it's the place to be. Yeah, it's the drop, D-R-O-P.